You often advocate for PMs to ship or to do more firsthand prototyping. So, in this era of low code and AI assisted coding, how has the definition of minimal viable product changed? And what are some ways that people can make sure that they are staying up to date on the ways that we are prototyping?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that there's been conflicting understandings of what an MVP is. Some people will think it's the least you can ship to a customer. Some people will think it's the least you can experiment with. I've always tended to prefer it being the least you can experiment with. And I think that we're at a phase now where code is cheap. I'm not saying good code is cheap necessarily, but code is cheap. So a week ago, we released a product 2 weeks ago, and then a couple of days later, somebody in the Webflow community posted a critique of it online, and one of my colleagues started an agent doing what we would call deep research, where it comes up with a bunch of things to ask, it does a huge research document, then it specs out a feature improvement it could make. And then after it did that for a little bit, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, he kicked off a coding agent that built it and then QA'd it based on a plan that they agreed upon. And he let that run overnight. Not that it takes overnight, but he didn't want to sit there and watch it. The next day, we had something that we could test with users. And I think that is going to start to become the norm. And as code becomes really cheap to build, the code base itself will be sacred, but the things that you build, you should be okay with throwing them away so long as they're valuable to learn something from. And I think that we're soon going to enter a point in time where everyone is building prototypes for potential improvements, either overnight or just while they're in a meeting. And then they come back and they schedule a test with someone who can test it out to let them know, does it work? Does it feel right? Does it feel wrong? And it's this concept of building backwards that I've heard people talk about, where rather than spending a ton of time refining things up front, just get to a finished product and then figure out what's wrong with it. I think that's what's changing right now.